sponsors Tin Your Tip with Garry Dibley.
Well, good evening. It is a Monday night. It is 9 o'clock and it is time to tin your tip with myself, Garry Dibley, and the ever-capable mod master that is Mark. Interesting week and sort of week. You'll see a little bit later on I was bit by some spidery type thing, which bored my arm up and lots of other parts of my body that I didn't really want to be swelling. Well, not over a weekend anyway. No, it wasn't that, seriously. And sort of went out driving, as you do, driving the wife to be shopping. And I sort of went into Sutton Town Centre, and I met a very, very, very nice gentleman. Now, I'm a bit thicky when it comes to remembering names. And the echo has gone, I believe. There we go. Yes, damn button, hate the damn bloody thing. Forget it every time. Shall I start? I'll judge you a little bit again. Yes, bit by spider, bad weekend, bad day, which has just got worse, as you can see. I haven't eaten until I got home at about sort of 7 o'clock, and my hernia is killing me for it. It's the first meal I've had all day. So not in the best of moods, not in the best of spirits. I'm sure it'll pick up. As I was saying, I got dragged shopping by the wife, which turned out to be a very good little expedition, because I encountered, obviously there's the places like the VIPs and all of that in Sutton Town Centre. Very pleased to actually walk past a shop. Clock, it was obviously full of vaping gear. I did take a little snap. Which I have there. It's called Vape Shifters, and it is literally right down near the sort of the car of Sutton. It's in the St Nicholas Centre, down in there. Very knowledgeable gentleman sat in there, which did make an absolute change and a pleasure. Had a really, 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 really good chat. We may well go and film some bits down there as well. He said we can. So yeah, nice to see a bricks and mortar in Sutton. It was good. Good. This week I'm talking about stuff. I had quite a few requests come through about what I'm going to be going through, and Mark is modding his lipstick holder. A little bit worried as to why Mark has a lipstick holder, but there you go. Let's crack into our videos. If my stomach holds out, it might be a full show. I really don't know. I'm just going to play the videos. If you don't see much of me, apologise. It can only be a good thing, but I'll try and pop back in. Right, so we're back for another week, and due to a lot of requests, we're gonna try and break down the mods that we do. Last week I made the pink shoe with the VV circuitry inside, and it may have been a little bit fast to follow. Because I've had, like I say, had a lot of requests saying, can we sort of break down, if you like, how we use our most common board. Now, both of these boards here are identical, apart from the fact that one is, as you can see, ever so slightly bigger than the other one. And really, that is luck of the draw when you get them in from China. They both use the same chip, which is an LM2596S, which is a step down chip. Now, I know we talk about series and parallel and all those sort of things. Let's put it into sort of terms that are understandable. These batteries require a bigger input to what they're putting out. All this circuitry here does is actually trim down the voltage that's coming into it to a regulated voltage going out. So we can have, two fully charged batteries stacked, as we call them, end to end. The pos to neg and right the way through. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. But effectively, it's taking, if you like, the big whack of voltage in, and this circuit is trimming it down to putting out something that we want to vape on. Be it from around about 3 something up to the full chunk if you want, 7 volts. stupid, but you can. As I say, they come in many shapes and sizes, and it is luck of the draw really as to what one you get. Looking at the board in a bit more detail. Now, here is the chip that we were talking about, the LM2596S. Got a couple of caps on there. We've got our trimming pot on here. Now, the most common question is, and it is quite difficult if you're looking at placing that in a mod, can you actually you know, take this out and move it somewhere else? Yes, you can. Very, very simply on the back of this board here, and this is probably where you see the difference between this board, because I favour this type and this one. This has got a nice coating on the back of it, and everything's just seems to be far better finished. But literally by desoldering these three tabs here, you can either relocate this somewhere else. Now, this does have a rating on it, and you need to make sure if you're going to replace something, you get the correct rating to whatever's on your board. You know, and you can get something like this pot here that can go external and do exactly the same job by trimming up and down. And that's all you're doing, you're trimming the voltage. Fingers everywhere today. So looking at this particular board and looking at how we would use it. Now, I was saying we need to have a battery pack. This is, if you like, a standard off-the-shelf twin 18650 battery pack, and what this has is an output here on the negative, an output here on the positive, and then the neg and the pos on the other end are joined by a piece of wire. So effectively what you're doing is stacking up the batteries. This will, if you've got two, you know, 4.2 volt batteries running through there, you stick your meters on here, that will give it 8.4 volts going into this board, and this board will then take over the control of trimming that voltage down to whatever output you want. Now, the easiest way to do that obviously is with a multimeter, or if you know, a multimeter or one of the little meter displays that we have. Now, unfortunately, I'm clear damn out of those, so I can't show you that. But we're going to look at potentially drawing this circuit out to show you how you can build it outside of a mod, and then piece it together here. So literally on here they're marked up very, very, very clearly. I know, like, down there is hard. So here you can clearly see there's an input here, and that's input on the negative. This will be the input on the positive. So effectively that is where our battery pack will connect to. Now, it's not as simple as just connecting your battery pack across the pos and neg, because as you may have seen last week, what I do is switch the input on these boards. Because what you're doing when you complete the circuit, that's only when you're drawing on the batteries. Common mistake that a lot of people make is would be to switch the output of one of these boards. That means that you've got that constant voltage coming in, you know, regardless, it's just going to drain your batteries down over time. Switching it on the input, you're only using the input from those batteries when you're turning the mod on. It's, you know, it may not be the way to do it. It's the way that I do it, and I find that is probably the best way, because you're restricting any runoff on the batteries there. Now, these are totally protected boards, so they are short protected. They will cut out in the event of a short on an ATI connection, and they do have a lower end limit, so they won't function if the combined battery pack is below a certain voltage, and that is always worth looking at when you're speccing up a mod. You don't want a board that has got, if you like, a low end input range of 2 volts, because effectively that means you can drain your batteries down to 1 volt each, and render them useless or very, very dangerous. So I tend to go for something that has normally, you know, a 4 volt-ish input, and the specs are there on the net. When you look at them, your input voltage is one to take notice of when you're looking at these boards, and they do vary. I'm going to pop away. I'm going to come back. We'll literally just try and draw this circuit out so you can get a better understanding of how we use this in a mod. once you've got used to doing this outside of a box and it works outside of a box, a tin or whatever, it is literally a case of placement and fitment of all the components into whatever you're trying to mod. And once you've worked that out, it's not rocket science. We'll come back in 2 and we'll see if we can sort of draw this out and make it a little bit sort of simpler for you. That sounded condescending, I didn't mean that, but a little bit more understandable is probably the best way. Back in 2.
Well, this week I'm going to be using the leftover Ego parts that I've got, and this case I picked up from China, which is supposed to be a power bank charger. This is the empty case that you can get, and I'm going to make it into basically a large Ego. Now, I'm not going to use the actual Ego connector on this. I'm using a standard 510 connector to keep the length down. As you'll see, it's got rather an awkward shape at the top, so rather than fill this in, I'm just going to cut it out so I can fit the 510 connector in. Straight on the top, and that'll cover over most of the hole. And what I've done is I've added one of these finishing washers to the 510 connector. I had to file it out slightly to fit. It's got a nice tight fit on it now, so that'll fit in. Glenn Morris very kindly sent me a few of these, so I'm going to be using them. And I think it'll give it a quite nice effect on the top. The hard part's going to be the switch from the board. I'm going to try again to fit one of these micro switches on instead, but we'll see if that works or not. And I'll be hardwiring an old 18650 in here so it can be charged. You will have to add an Ego or a charging adapter to the 510 to get it to fit onto a charger, but apart from that it should work nicely. So let's get to it. So first job's to take apart the connector here, so it's just a matter of prying up the holder that's in there. Keep that because they can always come in handy at some point. And then this drops out from here. There's the bottom cover. If I just push the .510 back up through, this will come away no problem. So I'm just quickly desolder this. Like so. And of course I'll need to get the negative off the housing. Which I'm just going to snap off, I think, because that's getting rather hot. Just cut that away and save that. It will always come in handy at some point. Basically that's the electronics. And the hard part is going to be soldering wires onto this switch. As the connections are incredibly small. I'm going to go from this end and do one of each of these, I think. Although I'll have to test it to check that that is the way the circuit works. which I'll do right now in a second. So I've got the meter set to the continuity mode. I'm just going to add a probe to the two connectors on the same side. As you hear, that's beeping. If I do them to opposite points, it only beeps when I press the button. So the two on the same side will be the, or either side or diagonally, are the ones I want. So those 2 points are the ones I'll be connecting to, hopefully. Hope you can see that, because this is incredibly small work. What I'm intending to do is use the vise, I think, to try and steady all of this. I'll just very gently grip this in the vise. Hopefully will give me a position to work to. So I've tinned up my 2 wires and hopefully I can get these to solder to this joint. But if I'm honest, this soldering iron really isn't suitable for work this small. There's one I've managed. The trouble is, this is so ridiculously small. That appears.
And we're back in the room once again. Just very quickly, the headphones still. Just to clarify, I tell you what I'll do. I'll run the ads. I'll come back and talk a little bit.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley. iViber and iViber Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iViber.co.uk and iViber-elixir.co.uk. iViber and iViber-elixir.co.uk are proud sponsors of ViberTrails.tv. Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
There we go, back in the room once again. As I was saying, I just wanted to clarify a couple of points, and realistically they are, if you like, safety points. I know I mentioned with the board earlier that there are, if you like, a certain level of cutouts that you can get. I've seen the boards advertised with very low sort of minimum input voltages. I know most of them around about the 4.5 volts. Don't use that as a safeguard. That is, if you know what I mean, your safety guard for your batteries running too low. If you configure the mod the way that we're showing you and drawing this out today, very simply by turning your voltage to full chunt and pressing your fire button, and that's fully up on the little pot as high as it will go, obviously with nothing attached to the ATI end, that will give you your total charge left in your batteries. Don't rely on the board cutting out, because at that point they will be below sort of a usable level. Always keep an eye on your batteries when you use them in a VV mod of any type. You don't want to run them down too low. If you keep an eye on them, I mean, I change mine out on the Vamo as soon as it hits sort of 3.8, 3.7. But just keep an eye to clarify. Yeah, it was a very nice stand that you see there that Mark had, and it is available, I believe, from somewhere called eBay. ATI stands, didn't say that, shouldn't have done. Let's crack on with our next little bit. I'm a suffering today, so popping in and out. My hernia is absolutely beating the hell out of me at the moment. So I'll pop back after these few.
Okay, so we've got our board here. And the first thing that we want to look at is having some form of a battery input. Now, as I say, the common sort of is a twin 18650, or you can use 18350s as I used last week. The way that the batteries need to go into this mod is pretty much identical, and that would be that you've got your two batteries. Now these look like small batteries there. Now you're going to have a pos and a minus at that end, a pos and a minus at that end of your two batteries. This end here, these two are joined together, as they would be in the holder that I showed you. There's a wire that runs across those two that are joining those two bits together. This then is your output of your neg and your pos that will go into your board. What we want to do, as I said, is switch the input of that board. So we've got our little switch here, and essentially we need to work out which way we're going to switch it. Your switch will work, obviously it's a contact switch, push button switch, so when you push those two together it makes a circuit. What I would normally do is wire my pos straight up to the board, one piece of wire going through the board. My negative I would take out via one of the pins of my switch. The other pin of my switch I would wire back down to this board. A really dodgy picture of a switch. So as you can see, at this moment in time, this circuit is open. We've got our two batteries feeding into the board, but there's a break in the circuit by this switch. And this is what I was talking about switching the input of the board. With that sat like that, there's no way that you're going to get battery leakage. There's not going to be any constant flow of current, because there is a break. Now when you depress your switch, effectively what you're doing is you're sticking a line across there and you're completing the circuit, so you've got your power into your board. The way that the boards come out of the factory, these are normally jacked up to the full extreme. So whatever you've got here with two fully charged batteries is whatever you're going to get out here. So before you turn the mod on, trim that back, and you'll see that on your, if you include a little voltmeter in your circuit, you'll see, before you put an ATI on, hit your button, your voltage should display, and you can trim that back. Like I say, if you had a design where you want to take this out of the board, you can remove those, hardwire 3 cables in here and take it off externally somewhere on the box. Very simply, then we've got our output section of this board, which, let me zoom back out. Now our output section would go to our atomizer. So literally a straight through couple of wires here that will go up to our ATI connection there. So you've got our POS coming up to, if you like, our center pin of our atomizer connection, and a negative which will be going to the body of the atomizer connection. Realistically, in that scenario, you've got a complete working circuit using this board. The only thing that you've got in there is your battery and a switch. Working mod. Now that's great if you want to sort of, you know, if you want to monitor that with a meter, and the way that you would do that is put a multimeter on your battery terminals, battery on your ATI connection, POS on the middle pin, neg on the outside, press your button, get your circuit, get your voltage on your multimeter, and trim this up to your desired voltage. Very, very, very simple. They're not rocket science, these type of VV mods. In that way, hopefully you can sort of see just how simple they are. It is definitely worth having a go. These boards can be picked up for a couple of quid on eBay. If you just do a search for the LM2596S board, it will come up, and a couple of quid for an ATI connection from most of the retailers. Again, same in Google, type in twin 18650 battery holder and you'll get one pretty much in that format. What I do, I'm going to pop away, come back, and we'll show you how we would put, if you like, a display element into that. Back into.
But the only way to test it is to again go back to the continuity. So hopefully when I press the switch, there we go. So that is those wires wired up. All I need to do now is add the switch, which again should be, if I hadn't put the continuity, I think it's two on the same side. Indeed it is. So those two are the two I need to solder up on this. And with any luck, that'll be the last of the really fiddly work that needs to be done. So I just tin up the tip. Quickly tin up the connectors. And we are done. So now hopefully this will be the switch I'll be using. If you might have noticed while I was soldering those on, I desoldered the wire by accident for the atomizer connector. But that's no big deal, as I'll probably want to replace that wire anyway with a bigger length. But we'll get to that. Now that that's done, I need to position the switch. So the way this works is it's in three parts. You've got this insert to hold the top and bottom together, and what I'm thinking is the best place I can put the switch to make it easier to put together will be in this ridge that comes through the middle. So So that's what I'm going to try and do now. So as simply as I can make it. Just carefully drill that hole out. But that won't be big enough. So with the step drill bit, I'm going to open it out until I can fit the switch in. I'm not entirely certain of the size I need. And if I just try and push it through, that doesn't quite go, so I need to be slightly bigger. And that should just about fit, I think. Indeed, yes. Oh, pop through the hole, no problem. So that's one job out of the way. I just need to remember to put these bits back together the right way around. So now it's time to try and fit this all in place. So I need to, rather than try and drill this because it's such an awkward hole, I'm just going to cut away these sections here. Rather carefully. Hopefully I can do this without anything snapping. Well, that's one side released and the other one should just snap a little way along where I've cut. That way. Test fitting this, it's still too narrow, so I'm just gonna, with a small file, I'm just gonna file these bits away. I'll pop back when it's the right size. So I've filed out the hole, so this will now sit in there square and should look rather nice when it's done. I just need to fix it in place, probably with epoxy putty I think. But the first job I need to do is work out how I'm going to get all these bits together in the right order so that it works. So I don't, it's going to make it impossible to put together basically.
Okay, so adding a display, how difficult is that? Now, as I said, I don't have a display to actually show you how to wire it into this circuit. I've got to order some more at some point. But realistically, the little 3-segment displays that you can get that we used last week, and you can sort of see that is embedded down in that mod there. How do we use it? Now they have a plus and a minus lead already built into them, and those are your little sort of 8-segment displays like that. Yeah, something like that. Can you tell what it is yet? But that is your display outside of the circuit. Now, there's ways of using the display. You can actually use it to monitor your input to the board. So if you wanted to use it to monitor the input of the board, you could take a feed plus and a minus off the input of this board here. So when you make your circuit here, this would show you what the input is if you wanted to monitor the state of charge of the batteries. So when you press the button, it gives you a combined total of the two batteries, because that's what hit in the board. So you can use it to monitor that way. If you wanted to use it so you're monitoring your output voltage, it is a simple case of, before you actually connect these two to the ATI, you would just run your pos to your pos here, and your neg would obviously have to run round to your neg there, and you would just literally twist those two wires together, solder them up, and again solder that to your ATI. So effectively what you've got then is your reading. Now this works in one of two ways. When you're reading this, when you complete your circuit without anything attached to this, you're reading effectively without a load. He's stumbling. So press your switch, your two batteries fire into the board at full chunt. This bit does all the wizardry pokery. Whatever you got that set to and trimmed down will give you your output voltage without any load on it, and that will be displayed here. So this is the best scenario if you're first setting up a mod, to press your button, adjust this little trim tool down here, or your external windy thing if you put one on. Technical terms today. Your external trim pot, basically they're a variable resistor. Trim that down and your voltage will be displayed here. Now what you will find is, with these boards and with pretty much any VV board, there will be a drop off under load. So these are relatively good. They don't give that much of a massive drop off. But when you press your button, say this is saying, and you want you vape at 4.1 volts, say for example. You press your button, you trim this up to 4.1 volts, attach your ATI, and that'll probably drop down to 3.9, maybe 4. What you'd have to do if you want to vape at the 4 volts is, when your ATI is attached, very very carefully trim this up to your 4 volts, and when you take your ATI off, you're without load, so it'll probably read a little bit higher, 4.3, something like that. Once you get used to really the dynamics of the board, you can trim it accordingly, so you get a rough thingy. In terms of wiring, that is as simple as it gets in terms of the diagram. You're switching your input, your pos and negs on your battery, into the board, switch either the pos or the neg, it doesn't matter, so you don't lose any or constant drain on the batteries. Let this do all the wizardry. Out straight pos neg to your ATI. If you want to include a display circuit, pos neg twisted together on these, joined onto the ATI. Job is a good one. And really that is how simple it is. The hardest part of modding is actually getting that to fit in something, because as we were talking about last week, there may be elements where you've got to mod the fitment of this board to fit in a case. Last week I had to mod that board to get it to fit in the toe of the shoe. You may have to mod the battery compartment, and if you've got to mod the battery compartment to fit in a particular tin. So you've got a tin that you want that to fit in. This one it will fit in, but what you've got to do is you've got to get your board in ever so slightly tight, so there's some sort of modification to be done of the battery holder to get it in. So that is that's your biggest challenge realistically. Once you've got all your bits in place, the challenge is modding the components, the bits that come with it, to fit exactly where you want them to fit in the mod. Other than that, it isn't rocket science. Back into
And there we go, we're back in the room once again. Before I go into the ad break, I'm going to show you this. You'll probably know what these are. These are our very own Mark's mod stands. Now, as you may know, I'm doing the bit for children in need. Mark has very generously donated a number of these, enough to have a varied type in all of the bags of prizes that we're putting forward. So thank you very much, Mark, for adding to that. I'll show you the pot where we are currently. I'll slip into an ad break and we'll pop back very shortly after this.
So why can't I say something to change this situation? With no great words of wisdom springing to my mind. What have I done to deserve this aggravation? No, I never said I'm perfect. If I did, it was a lie. Meet me halfway. Do I have to get a stick so you can beat me once again? Meet me halfway. 'Cause you're not fair. 'Cause I've tried so hard to get to know you, but you're not giving anything away. I've tried every trick in the book to try to break you down, but I stand defeated. I hold my hands up now, you beat me hands down, yeah. So why do you use me to vent all your frustrations? Yeah, why does everything that I say have to be a lie? And why are you so deeply into confrontations? 'Cause I'm not going nowhere, and you'll miss me when I die. Meet me halfway. Do I have to get a stick so you can beat me once again? Meet me halfway. 'Cause you're not fair. 'Cause I've tried so hard to get to know you, but you're not giving anything away. I've tried every trick in the book to try to break you down, but I stand defeated. I hold my hands up now, you beat me hands down. No, no.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley. Dirty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
And there we go, back in the room once again. Yeah, as I say, they really are, the prizes are coming thick and fast. And I've had another donation from, I think, e-cig Wizard, who have promised me 50 bottles of juice and 10 kits. So, good stuff. Ticket sales will go up soon. I'm not sure when they're going to be. I need to get all the stuff in, get it in here, so it's ready to go out. I believe as well I may be getting a hybrid, Cobra hybrid, I think. Hopefully that'd be good. So lots of stuff coming in. I'll film it, put it up as we go. I want to be running Raffles very early November, so ticket sales will probably go on very shortly. Just got to catch up, that's all. Catch up, playing catch up. Let's crack on with our next little bit, and see you back shortly.
I forgot to mention earlier. I don't know, Surrey has been the home at the moment to false widow spiders, and I was bitten by one in the shed this week, and this is a normal sort of colour of my arm, and that's where the little bugger bit me, and it's sort of swollen up like that. It was up like an egg. But I've got all the proper, been to the docks and all that sort of stuff, and got all the proper creams and stuff, and it seems to be going down. They said to keep an eye on it, and if it swells up anymore, got to go back. But there we go, happy days. Might turn into Spider-Man. Now that would be fun. What I was sort of going to show you very, very quickly, one of the simplest mods you can do in terms of a box mod, something like this. Your standard box. Now they work in a very, very, very simple format. You've got a pos and a neg on your battery sort of compartment. Your pos terminal, if you don't want to do any trickery pokery, it's just a simple battery holder. You can take your pos straight out to your ATI pin, and that goes on your center one. You can take your neg up via a switch, and then take that straight through to your neg or the outside terminal of your battery. That is, in its simplest format, a mod. Plus and a minus on a battery holder, switching the neg, as you can see like that. You switch that, you've got your flow of currents going straight through, and at you on the end. What they'll give you with your battery in place, now at that sort of start they're round about, I think they're sort of 4.2, so round about 4 volts, and then it will literally fade as the more you vape. Pretty much the same as most of the stuff out there, to be honest with you. A standard mechanical mod is going to do exactly the same. Very, very easy and very, very achievable with that type of holder. There are loads and loads and loads and loads of things, but in terms of diagrams, it's been requested that try and do something like this to show you how we put this stuff together, draw it out so you can actually have a look. Get yourself on eBay, have a look around for those boards, have a look for displays, have a look for switches. As long as the switch is rated at around about 3 amps, you should be good with it. Battery holders are battery holders. There's 18650s, 14500s, 18350s. They are in abundance. So you're not limited by supply of anything now to make something to vape with. Hopefully that was sort of useful. I'm going to go and put some more antihistamine cream on and take some more antibiotics, and I'll catch you back in 2.
My first job is going to be to fix the switch in place. And that's just going to be with a dab of super glue, I think. Or is it? Yeah. I'll do that one first, I think. just want to spot a super glue on it. This is pretty much just going to be a temporary measure just to hold it in place while I work, I think. So I'll just pop that square through the hole, and basically I'll hold it till it sets. And now the switch is set, I need to solder the 510 connector onto the board, which is going to be a tad fiddly, let's say, as I have to do it through this to get it to work. So just tin up the edge of the connector for the negative. And tin up the negative wire. And pretty much pop the two together. Which has proven to be a bigger pain than I thought. I'll be back in a second. So what I've decided to do is push everything through the hole so I've got the wire clear. That should make things a lot easier. I'm going to just tin up the soldering in. It's as easy as that. Or not. Pop that one up and in place. Now I've had to skip a couple of steps because, well, one reason I couldn't do it on camera, it was just too difficult. And two, I really don't want to be showing soldering onto a battery. It's not something I really advise, but I have done it in this case. So basically it's a case of sliding the whole thing together and gluing the remaining parts in place. Now, I had planned on using epoxy to do this, but I think it's going to be hot glue because it's going to be too awkward to get around. But this should give you an idea of the mod. You can see there's a blue light there and a red light on that side. So that's going to work rather well. It's just going to be a matter of fixing it all in place. Of course, I really ought to test it, which is easier said than done. You hear that sizzling away there. So that's basically going to be the mod. Now, as you'll probably see from the mess, I've had the hot glue gun out, and what I did is I pulled off the top section and basically filled this cavity with hot glue, so that's it all sealed up and it's eventually cooled down. So all that's left to do is pop the bottom back on, and at some point I'll probably glue this in place, but for now I'll just slide it up, and there's a completed mod. If you'll see the lights, show through okay. One word of warning: if you're going to use hot glue in something like this, remember that when hot glue is liquid, it's a liquid, so it shorts things out. As this thing was constantly firing when the liquid was melted. It's a one to remember, so just watch out for that. But once it's cooled down, it's no longer a problem. So I'll just pop the tank back on the top. As you can see, it fits rather nicely on there. Okay, the sizzle, not very much because this is a 3.5 ohm coil, but it vapes just fine. So there you go, a handy little high capacity eagle basically. Not a bad size, shape. Good backup.
There we go, and we're back in the room once again. Excuse me, absolutely cracking mod. That one, like that a lot. Nice, simple, usable, stealthy little mod. What have we got coming up for the rest of the week for you? Marco is back tomorrow with the Vapor Scene. Obviously following on with DE Talk. On Wednesday we have VT Talk, and on Thursday the Haze Hour. Obviously going through the week, keep up with the guys on RY4, our own Daz, Rob and Tim. Where'd I go on Saturday? On Sunday even. Don't know what the week is today. It's been a long day. Sunday, Dave's back with his tackle box. There we go. If there is anything that you guys do want to see, pretty much along the lines of what we've done with breaking down the individual circuits and looking at them like that today, hopefully that was useful to a few of you out there. If you do want to see something like that again, obviously don't hesitate to give us a tinkle and let us know. I'm not sure. Next week I might be filming from here. I don't know. I'll have to have a chat. It may well be the week after. I don't know, but I'm going to film something from there. Judging by some of it was really interesting. I spent probably a good sort of 40 minutes in there chatting, and the amount of people that were coming in, it was cracking. You know, just meeting people off the street who have just come in and gone, "What's that? I want one." It's, you know, and it was, I say, an absolute pleasure to spend time with somebody who actually knew what they were talking about. Very, very, very clued up, which you know, to be honest, wasn't what I was expecting when I first went in, and it was a pleasure to actually find that. I'm going to wrap that up now. Thank you very much again for tuning in. Thank you very much for Mark and the team, and we'll see you back next week. Once again, it has been emotional, guys. Catch you next week. Cheers now. Bye.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-Year Tip with Garry Dibley.